Human factors affecting restoration initiatives. Gorongosa has never been only a wilderness area. Humans have lived around the park for centuries. Currently, almost 200,000 people are living around the park in traditional communities. The people living nearby are encouraged by the restoration of the park. Nonetheless, it is the same human impact that slows down the process, due to logging, poaching, increasing population around the park, farming, among others. Logging. In 2018, a military officer was sentenced to a 12-year imprisonment due to illegal logging, attempting bribery, and possessing illegal weapons. In a report about these occurrences, it was stated that illegal loggers working for bamboo were caught on November 21, 2018, with 20 logs of protected leadwood. The workers attempted to bribe in order to avoid their arrest and prosecution, offering the wardens an amount of 30,000 medicais, which account for around $490. The bribe failed, causing them to threaten the wardens with a firearm that wasn't registered. It was stated that there were enormous amounts of logs from trees of various species, including freshly logged monzo, which was banned from logging on the 29th of March that year in a dispatch from the Ministry of Land, Environment and Rural Development. Anthony Alexander, the senior project manager in Mozambique for the Peace Parks Foundation, stated that, "With time, you find that some species of trees become completely regionally extinct, and being hardwood, these trees are extremely slow-growing, competing in a landscape with increased bush and grasses, which combined with increased fires, poses a threat to the growth of younger trees. This has a knock-on effect, impacting on a wide variety of animals and species critical to biodiversity, including many keystone species like vultures and ground hornbill, which need large trees for nesting." In Gorongosa National Park, there is a team of rangers that are in charge of protecting the park from threats like bushmeat, hunting, and illegal logging. Nonetheless, Gorongosa is very big, and the rangers, despite their doing their best, cannot control every illegal logging from happening. Poaching. The Civil War of 1997 to 1992 and subsequent poaching caused the eradication of the megafauna of Gorongosa. A survey that took part in 1994 documented that just 108 elephants, 65 zebras, and 129 waterbucks lived in the park. Meanwhile, there was a complete loss of buffaloes, wildebeests, and hippos, meaning that more than 90% of the elephant population was lost. However, the population is growing back again. But anyways, poaching remains a threat for the restoration of animal population to occur. The 2008 non-profit CAR Foundation that created the Gorongosa Restoration Project allowed the reduction of poaching due to higher ranger capacity and by reintroducing key wildlife species in the ecosystem, which has caused the animal populations to naturally recover. However, large investments must be held in order to ensure the long-term success of these strategies and of the restoration. In 2019, a Mozambique court sentenced 10 poachers to 16 years in jail after being caught hunting illegally in the park. After a study on the elephants was made in terms of poaching, the scientists noted two characteristics in the elephants of Gorongosa. The first one is that many elephants had no tusks or smaller than usual ones, making it less attractive to poachers. And also, the female elephants in Gorongosa are much more aggressive to humans than other African elephants. This is due to their history of violence coming from humans in the Civil War and currently, meaning that poaching not only reduces the animal population, but it also causes psychological stress on the animals that survive it. Increasing population. As the population near the park increases, civilization and animals are forced to share space, which is why humans and animals come into contact frequently. These encounters can cause crucial impacts on the animal's behavior. For example, elephants sometimes leave the park boundaries searching for additional resources. This movement of elephants is due to human-wildlife conflict, in which humans are violent to the animals due to them damaging their crops and farms in search of resources. When elephants move to new sites where they haven't had encounters with humans, they will find no additional resources, resulting in psychological stress from part of the animals. Large mammalian herbivores require an extensive habitat, and the demand of humans for their meat has made them go extinct. Also, throughout most of Africa, the abundance of many taxa has decreased by nearly 60% between 1970 and 2005, due to many factors, among them displacement due to growing human populations. Farming and other human impacts. The human activity of citizens living near the park has aroused a concern, given that they have harmful effects on the mountain's hydrology that supplies water to the Gorongosa National Park. Conservation scientists from the Carr Foundation have discovered that agriculture endangers the park's ecosystem through deforestation and soil erosion, factors that have negative impacts on the park's flora and fauna, as well as the park's waterways, damaging the attempt of the foundation to restore Gorongosa National Park. Human alteration of the environment upsets the equilibrium, threatening the stability of the ecosystem. It was also mentioned that areas surrounding the park show that the number of medium-sized antelopes are low, and larger species are mainly absent, caused by hunting and agriculture in the zone. Also, changes in the landscape and farming practices have caused honeybee populations to decrease, causing problems in the reproduction of fruit crops and other plants due to the lack of pollination. However, humans have also created a positive impact in the restoration of the park, aside from the loyal protection of the rangers. Nespresso, a coffee operating unit of the Nestlé Group, signed a memorandum of understanding for implementing coffee farming in the park. Coffee farming provides a way to reforest the previously destroyed hills due to the Civil War, and slash and burn farming techniques used up until this point. The Gorongosa region during the war severely damaged the Gorongosa's forests due to the unsustainable farming methods, but since 2015, local farmers have been encouraged by Nespresso to plant coffee seeds on the Mount of Gorongosa, in a region called the Buffer Zone, which surrounds the national park with a total of 600,000 hectares. Nespresso has the aim of reforesting Mount Gorongosa, meanwhile implementing on the Growth of Coffee initiative, improving the quality of their coffee. The company set to promote sustainable farming practices and agroforestry, while also improving farmers' livelihoods through capacity and skills building.
Conservation proposal. Use active management strategies to ensure a successful long-term conservation. The goal is to create a management strategy aimed at specific investments, so the target may return. In this case, helping the Gorongosa ecosystem to recover from species to animal recovery and flora and natural resources to be reestablished. We must consider the biodiversity conservation to reach for a green infrastructure, to the climate mitigation as for climate adaptation. To generate a valid proposal to ensure a successful long-term conservation, some steps must be taken into consideration. First of all, as scientists, we must consider the alternatives to building or reconstructing the new environment. In this example, we are talking about a national park, which needs to be saved. There must be a project identification phase. Project approval for financial aids and planning, also including any environmental impacts that may alter not only the costs, but also what we are able to understand and study, so it is easier to consider as a variable to manipulate. And it is important to explicitly integrate the ecosystem's infrastructure development of the implementation phase, consisting of detailed engineering design. Then, to reduce the vulnerability of the infrastructure and the environment in which the ecosystem usually works, for there is no operation lifetime in the project. We start thinking of the operation and the reoperation to monitor and evaluate the effects and improvements. It is a state of maintaining for a long term period, and in either case there is a human effect that might alter the conservation or redesign plan must be constructed based on retrofitting, relicensing, and reassessment of projected incurred environmental impact. Program of biodiversity based on informatics for environmental conservation proposals. The African biodiversity is facilitated by South Africa National Biodiversity Institute. The capacity development program also includes the sponsorship of biodiversity informatics training at scientific conferences and sponsorship of African participation in international conferences. To restore the Gorongosa National Park, the overall problem we aim to address is the limited scientific capacity for collection, cleaning, curation, publishing, analysis, and communication of biodiversity data. There is a gap between the traditional research disciplines such as taxonomy and ecology and the public and private efforts to conserve biodiversity. There are professional and cultural barriers to sharing data. The tools and processes for open data access and open science are only slowly penetrating scientific discipline related to biodiversity. Biodiversity informatics is both a toolset and a research discipline, and there are no professional networks, professional associations, distance learning programs, or annotated training materials in Africa. There are gaps between scientific disciplines focused upon species occurrence data, and museum collections, and those that employ ecosystem level or genetic level indicators, and those that integrate biodiversity, biophysical, geospatial, and socioeconomical data for decision making. There are limited examples and little information available in Africa for the successful organization of paraprofessionals or citizen scientists for biodiversity data collection. Finally, coherent information on the well-proven software and hardware solutions for the handling, publication, and visualization of biodiversity data is fragmented and inaccessible. The Gorongosa Restoration Project proposal. Since the Civil War, the Mozambique's Gorongosa National Park was never the same. This park recruited a veteran pilot originally from Zimbabwe, a wildlife capture specialist from South Africa, and a young Mozambican ecologist who serves as an elephant manager for the park. Since then, most of the park's elephants were butchered for ivory and meat to buy guns and ammunition. But now there are more than 650 elephants. A ground team arrived with heavier supplies, technical helpers, and an armed ranger. The growth of the elephant population is only part of the encouraging news from Gorongosa. Most of the beast fauna, including lions, African buffaloes, hippos, and wild beasts, are vastly more numerous now than in the Civil War. Beginning with the proposal, stretching across a floodplain at the south end of Africa's Great Rift Valley, encompassing savannas, woodlands, wetlands, and a wooden pan of water called Lake Urima, Gorongosa was once a hunting reserve. Now, these places must be planted within an administration of how to keep any possible effect of humans far away, removing all the people that once shared a landscape with their wildlife. Now, as for coming to a solution was needed to create a balance with new facilities by bolstering the animal population and improving human lives by opening new facilities such as schools and clinics and promoting sustainable farming in nearby communities. As for ideas of this proposal, immersing science in the study of human rights and its great prophets and advocates, including Nelson Mandela. Inclusively, a current problematic for environmental and ecological circumstances is the overpopulation and how many people require many resources. Overpopulation in the tribes can be early marriages of teenage girls, and forcing them to be pregnant at a small rate age. Even if it's usually cultural tradition, it is not dangerous for the human but for the ecosystem, so there had to be a regulation. Girls need to be educated equally as men. To have the same opportunities with their ideas and intellect, the society could improve drastically. The female empowerment, rights for women and children. Poverty alleviation is what Africa needs to save its national parks.